Hello again, my name is Jason, and I'm going to be talking about Abarat. At least I think that's how you say it. Could be entirely wrong in that regard. This is a book by Clive Barker. Yes, that Clive Barker, the guy who did Hellraiser, and all those gory horror movies. Yes, completely different. This is actually teen literature. Go figure. So, looking at the front of the book, you don't get a good sense of what it's about. And these illustrations are part of the story, and they crop up, giving more depth, at least as far as giving you some visuals go. Okay, so the book is about a girl named Candy Quackenbush. She is from Chickentown, Minnesota, and she doesn't like living there. I mean, with a name like Chickentown, what else are you going to do? Chickentown, Minnesota is a poultry town, poultry farmers, poultry processors, all that stuff. Everybody has something to do with the poultry industry in Chickentown. Anyway, Candy is kind of the odd one out. Her home life's not very good, and by odd one out, she just doesn't seem to fit in Chickentown. Everybody else seems to be pretty content, which is weird for, like, Chickentown. Anyway, Candy gets assigned a project at school, a writing assignment, and she's supposed to research a story about the town. What the teacher was looking for was something about chickens. Didn't say that in the assignment description, obviously. And Candy went around and found a reference to an old ghost story, and tracked it down and found out more about it. Turns out this one room is haunted, and it's supposedly haunted by the founder of Chickentown. So she writes this all down and turns it in, and the teacher goes off on her, saying that it doesn't fulfill the requirements of the assignment when it really does. And Candy just gets fed up and walks out. It's like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Just leaves. And she heads to the edge of town. And when she gets to the edge of town, she finds this old, abandoned, ruined lighthouse. Now, the problem here is that what on earth is there going to be a lighthouse here for? Because there's no water anywhere. Anywhere. And so, she's curious about it, and so she goes to investigate further and ends up meeting John Mischief and his 7 brothers. John Mischief is that. So if you're looking at the book cover here, Candy Quackenbush is obviously the one with the girl that looks normal, and she's got all the chickens behind her. The one called John Mischief and his 7 brothers is the one with the funky antlers with the faces on them. That's John Mischief and his 7 brothers. John Mischief is the ambulatory one with the antlers, and his 7 brothers live on his antlers as just heads. Anyway, John Mischief is a thief, and he's stolen something that he shouldn't have. Anyway, going forward, John Mischief is actually being chased by another creature called the Crisscross Man, or Mendelssohn Shape. Very large, mean, awful man. And he tells Candy to go light the lighthouse, and kind of gives her instructions on how to go light the lighthouse. When Candy lights the lighthouse, an amazing thing happens. The sea comes to the lighthouse. It's called the Sea of Isabella, and there's a lot of names that are going to be thrown around in this book, and each island has its name. There's just tons of stuff going on here. But Candy and John Mischief escape into the Sea of Isabella, and they end up in Abarat. Abarat is this parallel world that used to be connected to ours here in Chicken Town until the connection was severed. And so every once in a while, people in Chicken Town would find things like fish bones and things like that were anachronistic to this place. And they couldn't figure out why. And now Candy knows, because there was a sea that connected this parallel world or whatever. And there used to be commerce back and forth between Chicken Town and the Abarat. When she gets to the Abarat, she finds out that there are 25 islands that make up this world. And each one of these islands is associated with an hour of the day. So there's a 1 o'clock in the morning and a 1 o'clock at night. There's also a central island that's kind of the timeless, you don't go there, it's forbidden island. But each of these islands has a name, it has its own culture, its own flora, fauna, society, all that. And they're all kind of divided between the day islands and the night islands. The night islands are kind of seen as evil, the day islands are kind of seen as good, and with good reason. There are two characters, Mater Motley and Christopher Carrion, that are trying to basically take over everything. That isn't to say that there aren't others who are ambitious. There's a man called Rojo Pixler. Rojo Pixler wants to take over everything, but in an entirely different sense. Carrion wants to dominate and be the overlord, while Pixler wants to be the overlord, but more in the commercial aspect. Yes, he'd like to own everything. He'd like everything to be his. He's just not, he's more of a commercial guy. I think the dude on it's one of the Pierce Brosnan Bond movies where the guy, he owns a media empire and he ends up basically owning 50.1% of the world. So he ends up kind of winning in a sense, in that he owns the majority of everything. And that's more what Pixler is attempting to accomplish. I got this book. Actually, what happened was I picked up the second book in the series, and I didn't realize it was the second book in the series until I got looking at it, and then I went and tracked down the first book in the series. But I got it because of the cover art and kind of the blurb on the back and everything. It's kind of funny to me that there's that saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover." I mean, how else are you going to judge the book unless you sit down and read it, cover to cover? You can't do anything but judge it by the cover. The idea of the blurb on the back and the cover art is there to catch your attention so that you pick it up, and then maybe there's enough interest to then start reading the book. Personally, I'm not a fan of horror movies, the horror genre in general. I've seen some, I just don't like them. So the fact that this book was by Clive Barker was kind of something that maybe was a turnoff. But reading the back, reading the blurb and everything, looking at the artwork and things, I came to I came to the conclusion that it wasn't one of his typical horror movie type deals. And so I gave the book a chance, and it's really good, really interesting. I love John Mischief, and I wish there was more John Mischief in the book. I like the fact that he has his 7 brothers living in his antlers, and they all have a different name. They're all John something, but they all have different personalities. They all talk. They all take part. And John is just an interesting character to me. Candy, don't get me wrong, Candy is good and everything, but for me, I just John Mischief struck a chord with me. really an interesting character, and too bad that he doesn't have more to do in this book. This is the first book in a set, in I believe, a trilogy. There could be more. I've read the first and second. I need to get the third book. But the idea that the world is, you go to a specific world, and it's always, or a specific island in that world. It's always that time of day on that island. There's magic, there's fantastical creatures. Candy helps and gets involved in these people's lives, and it's such a departure from her life in Chicken Town that she starts to actually grow and come alive. It's, like I said, it's really good. It's really fascinating. There's so much going on. And there's just so much more to discover, because Candy only has, in this first book, time to visit a few of the islands. She does visit more as it goes along, and finds out more of the backstory of the people and the what's going on in the political situation on the island, and who these people are that are trying to get involved with her, and just what it is she's doing here in the Abarat. Don't be put off that it's a kind of a teen literature book. Candy is a young girl. She's like 13, maybe up to 16. I forget how old she is. So don't let that stop you from reading this book. It's a good book. It's very fascinating, very interesting, and as always, like and subscribe. Put the notification, click the bell to get the notifications and all that stuff. If you have questions or comments, please leave them down below. And until the next one, keep enjoying what you're reading.